Hey now, boys and girls. Welcome back to the unfiltered, unedited, uncensored, and commercial-free Sharks podcast that is the Pucknologist here on Teal Town, USA. It was an interesting week of hockey for the Sharks as they went 1-2 over 3 games this week. We're going to dive into those games. Plus, is Eklund still going to be a Shark when we do our show next week? Will anybody else get COVID? And why does no one know where Evander Kane is? But first, do us a favor. Remember to subscribe, follow us on social media, and if you'd like to help us support the content we deliver, you can donate using that super chat option during the live shows, but our preferred method of donation is the Venmo tip jar. You can find us on Venmo at Tealtown USA. Remember, any and all donations are completely appreciated. So, with that, 3 games. 3. All of 3. But let's see. Hockey Jerk, are you ready for Halloween? And whoa, no free ads, bro. What are you doing? Where are you hanging out at?
There's a lot there.
There's a lot to take in. I feel like you're in the wrong spot. Let's situate that. Oh, okay. Now we're going.
Ooh,
okay.
There it is. We're we're right outside. We're right outside of Evander Kane's house. No,
whoa! Yikes! So here we are for Halloween, episode 138. Don't forget, we do this every Sunday, 7 o'clock Pacific, talking a little bit of Sharks and the weekend Sharks hockey. So let's start off with this. How did I do in my predictions? And
from what I heard, you did pretty well.
I did okay. I did nail the overtime winner versus Winnipeg, but I'm 4 for 8 in actual predictions, like saying when they would win, when they would lose. But through 8 games, I did have the Sharks at a 5-3 record, and right now, that's where they're at.
Holla.
Just saying. So hopefully we can keep that going. So, Jerk.
Yes.
What are you doing for Halloween besides talking to me? Any plans?
I carved a pumpkin.
You get sharpening those knives to carve me up when we talk about Carlson later.
Yeah, well, I needed to get good practice in. I did carve a 65 into my pumpkin.
Nice.
And good day, just mellow around, hanging around the house. Did not buy any candy because I, like you, live in a community that's it's a couple doors to get in there. So
there you go.
I'm not anticipating anybody.
And I didn't even realize Chip is behind me, like just chilling on the jersey. If anything, Halloween, it makes me wish that he was a totally black cat, but I digress.
Yeah, right.
So for me, it's so funny. I live on the top floor of a secure building, and so the wife has a bucket with a long ass rope. The picture's on my Twitter, and when the kids come around in the costumes, she's like waving her hands, going, "Come this way, we have candy," and she's dropping down the bucket.
Nice.
It's very funny.
See, I'm the same way. My community. It's got the front gate. It's got a locked door to get into my respective building, and then obviously we have a front door. So
no.
At that point, I don't think it's worth it.
Nice. So let's start with the final game of the 5-game roadie in Nashville, a 3-1 loss. Eklund comes back in after sitting out against Boston. Barracuda comes in, out goes Gadjevich, and I'm never going to get that name right, by the way. And Peterson, who knew that Peterson was the linchpin for the Sharks winning. Reimer starts. I was starting to wonder if we were ever going to see Peterson again, barring an injury. But the Sharks get down early, have to chase the game yet again, can't get it back. But Timo would nab a point for the 6th straight game for the Sharks' lone goal in that one. There was a lot of standing around, a lot of looking at, hey, look at the puck go that way. In Bugner, that was kind of evidenced by him going to the blender very early in this game. And it was a game that made you go, what the hell happened to our special teams?
Yeah, kind of felt like a totally different game compared to the first five. That was like, aside from the Boston game, obviously, that was kind of the first time that the Sharks were outplayed by a team that's around their skill level. And I mean, after it was all said and done, I really didn't get too upset about that loss, all things considered, but kind of the first time this season where, it was, in terms of the skill on paper, it was pretty evenly matched, and the Sharks ended up, arriving late to the party for that one.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the Sharks finally come back home and face the Montreal Canadiens, who they had shut out earlier. Just a little over a week earlier. Aiden Hill beat them 5-0, and then what happened? Sharks dropped their third straight, failing to score a power play goal while giving up a power play goal. First game of the season when Burns didn't lead the defense in time on ice. And go ahead.
Good.
Yeah. And, of course, Mike Hoffman would score the opening goal.
Of course he did.
Yeah. It was like, all right, so we swapped some shutouts with Montreal. And, I mean, dude, could the Canadiens have needed a win more? Jesus.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yikes. The thing that's a little scary in this one, and we'll get to it in a little bit, but, the last time I looked, the barn holds like 17,562, 17,568, depending on where you're at. Dude, 1146, and it's 65% full in the tank on that one. Interesting for a Thursday night against Montreal. Whatever. Finally, the Sharks versus Winnipeg, a 2-1 overtime victory. Again, Timo Meier showing up when it mattered most. The second time hosting the Jets in 2 weeks after beating them 4-3 in the opener. The game would start 30 minutes late after, a third of the team, or what some would say $30 million in contracts, would go on COVID protocol. And the first thing I want to ask you about this, Jerk, what if the CUDA are still in Worcester? What if the CUDA are not a San Jose-based team?
Yeah, exactly.
Does this game even get played?
Well, so that's the thing. One of the things I read on Twitter was basically, the Barracuda not only being in San Jose, but having a game in San Jose the previous day is what secured this game continuing. Otherwise, it would have been postponed. And one of the things the NHL came up with in their their COVID protocol for this season was a situation, I guess, an action plan for if they did have to postpone games. But thankfully it didn't come to that. And the Sharks were able to gut that one out. I mean, quite literally, the odds were stacked against them, and they pulled it through, which I think is a microcosm for the team as a whole this year, if you ask me.
I was amazed the way that the Sharks performed now, or should I say the Sharkacuda? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. The standouts for me, of course, were how are we pronouncing his name now? Hataka?
Well, according to the broadcast, it's Hataka. The only way I've ever heard it in my research and reading and listening has been Hataka. But if the broadcast is saying Hataka, I will defer to them.
Makuna Hataka.
For those who don't know, it's a player called Hataka.
So, Hataka, I'll go with that. And Barabanov, for me, were the standouts.
Huge, dude.
I was somewhat unimpressed with Leonard and Ryan Merkley in this one.
I agree with you there. I look at Barabanov the way he played in that game, and I'm thinking he's probably given the horse eye to Bob and is like, yeah, play me.
Yeah.
And Leonard, I'll be honest, I knew he got called up. I knew he was in the lineup, but every time they said his name, it was a surprise to me because I forgot he was there.
You're like, where? Who?
And Ryan Merkley, I thought in the offensive zone he was good. I thought in the defensive zone he was just okay.
Yeah. And getting back to the attendance issue for a second. Yeah, this one just a little better than Thursday, going from 11,463 to 8:45. That's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I think I'm willing to kind of give the benefit of the doubt here because when you spoke with Jonathan Becker, one of the things he was saying was, despite the vaccines and the protocols, there was still a hesitancy to go out and about. And yeah. I'm sure that's true, but you and I were both kind of like, yeah, it may or may not also have to do with how well the team has been the last 2 years. But I would say the Sharks have been good more than they've been bad this season, which makes me think there's the COVID nervousness, if you will, is maybe bigger of a factor than we originally thought.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Well,
and that's fine. You know what? If you don't want to go, hey, more power to you.
Well, and we'll see how that progresses. I mean, the rest of this week, what doesn't go in the Sharks' favor, of course, is seeing Buffalo on Tuesday,
the surging Buffalo Sabres, I might add.
Surging, yet not the biggest draw.
Right.
Right. And then follow that up with the Blues on Thursday, and then New Jersey on Saturday. It could be a long road to hoe, my friend, this week when it comes to drawing fans to the tank. We shall see. But, I mean, I can't give enough stick taps to the guys that, played the night before for the CUDA, woke up that morning to a text message going, wait, what? I'm doing who now? What? and just like not like even like Reimer mentioned it in the post game, like it was I think an hour before the start of the game where they weren't even sure if they were going to be playing or not.
Well, and that's the reason why the game start time was delayed, because they were literally waiting for test results.
Jeez. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm impressed that they were able to get the game off. I was impressed with the majority of the CUDA players that were able to come in and, I don't know, but essentially make the coach go, wait, who's this guy again?
Yeah, no doubt.
Now there was a couple guys like Barracuda captain Magna where I was kind of like, oof, that hurts. But there was a few guys who stood out. So let's get to the stats as to where the Sharks are at right now. The power play dropped off a scotch, down from 29% last week, now at 22%. Still good.
Yep.
Still very good. But they have dropped from 7th in the league to 14th. The Sharks did score a power play goal in regulation in their last 5 games after scoring at least failed to score a power play goal in regulation in their last 5 games after scoring at least 1 in their first 3. So hopefully the power play gets back on track. The PK, on the other hand, after going 10-10, is now 15-18.
Still good.
Yeah, 83%, 14th in the league. Face-off wins, again, has gone down. They were 52.3 a week ago, now at 50.9. They've dropped to 11th in the NHL, still in the top half. So the numbers are still good, and it's still that quote-unquote small sample size. So let's see how COVID and all these things impact all of this stuff. But the goalies, for me, are really... I want to say the story of this first 8 games. Hill, and I was going to say Hill, maybe not in the best way. Hill right now, goals against 2.95. That's not great. Save percentage 893. If you remember, Martin Jones put up an 896 year after year after year. But right now, Adin Hill, a 3-2 record. Remember, he was replaced in 1 game with Reimer. Reimer, on the other hand, goals against average 1.13. File under things you like to see. Under things you fucking love to see, a save percentage of 964.
Right. I think it's worth mentioning really quick on Hill is a couple, kind of like how we talked about last week, where at the end of the season there's always going to be outliers that you can point to, and all of them are in the first part of the season. And I think we've kind of seen that with Adin Hill, right? I mean, Especially like against the let in 3 against Toronto, like that's to be expected. And then obviously Boston's a good team. Nashville came hot at them, and Montreal did as well. I think we'll see that correct eventually.
I would hope so. And
I just think, I don't know. You're talking about the numbers, you're breaking it down, and I think everything's still fine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, down. Everything is down per se, but if you will, but
if you will,
the way I kind of look at it is like, hey, like if you're in the top 16, you're doing all right.
Well, if you will. Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah.
So Alden, the SAP Center's lax to zero mask enforcement is a huge deterrent. Is a joke. I'm not going to lie. The SAP Center, they're a little desperate to hire some people. And there's not a lot of people enforcing any of the mask mandate. It's just kind of like, if you get in, that's it. And it's like, hopefully you're a cool person and you wear your mask when you're supposed to. But there's going to be those people who are like, nope, feels good, feel comfortable, I'm fine with it. But there are people that are just going to go, nope, not going until something changes. We'll find out. But I want to ask you, at this point, with those numbers that I just said to you, I'm of the belief that there's, let me whip it out, if you will. We got 3 home games this week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. If I'm Bob Bugner, and I'm feeling better because right now I'm in COVID protocol, I'm Bob Bugner, but if I'm still making the call to the coach's room, I'm saying, yeah, Reimer gets the next 2 starts. Like, ride the hot hand.
Yeah, I mean, based on that logic, I say why not, especially against, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, this surging Buffalo Sabres, 5-2-1 to start the season, which we all predicted, right? So
absolutely.
I say why. I think you go with Reimer. I think the only thing that should be decided is Reimer versus Buffalo, and then, if he wins, you go Reimer against St. Louis. If he loses, I think maybe you flip a coin for that St. Louis game.
You're right.
And that's not to say that Adin Hill has been bad or shouldn't be playing or anything like that, because I've actually, despite the numbers, I've liked what I've seen from Adin Hill so far. I just think,
dude, Reimer's playing well, dude.
Reimer's playing well, especially in a time where the Sharks are scratching and clawing right now because, as you said, a third of their team is in the COVID protocol. You just got to go with the hot hand for right now. And now Reimer could easily lay an egg on Tuesday, and then come Thursday, Adin Hill has a shutout. I mean, we've seen the pendulum swing the other way, so there's reason to say it could swing that way as well. But I agree with you. I think you go Reimer on against Buffalo, and then you kind of just reset from there.
Yeah. And, our buddy Ian, winning you're in. So that's it. Reimer's taking the win.
That's the tandem motto there. So.
Right? From the blue line has kind of drifted. 2 goals, 12 assists in the first 5. No points in 3 games this week for all the carving that I expected last week about the defense, and especially EK65. No points coming from the defense this week. So are we pumping the brakes?
I wouldn't say we're pumping the brakes. I think we had I think we were going 75 in the left lane, and then you caught up to somebody going 60, and so you had to slow down a little bit.
All right. Let me ask you this: are we ever going to see Erik Karlsson play a full game or a full season with the Sharks? COVID protocol.
Dude, I hope.
Broken thumb. Broke this groin, that groin.
Yeah, I mean, poor guy, right? Because everything that's said about like, oh, he's injury prone, but it's like I don't really feel like you can assign blame for any of these.
No, you can't. No, it's dude.
How dare Brendan Dillon shoot a puck at Erik Karlsson's thumb? I know. How dare he test positive? Right?
What an asshole, right?
Yeah.
The one thing you gotta love though, Timo fucking Meier. Like,
hell yeah, dude.
Here's the guy that we've been waiting on, man. Leading the Sharks 5 goals, 11 points in 8 games. Like, you talk about a guy who had, I don't know, maybe had just like been done with hearing about how much he was not performing before. Dude is gripping it and ripping it, like leading the Sharks with shots on goal, just crashing, looking for chances at all avenues. How can you not love what Timo is doing so far this season? Can he keep this momentum going over 82?
I think so. I think we kind of saw his first breakout season, you know, that 2018-19 season where they went to the Western Conference Final, started similarly for Timo Meier, where I think these numbers are definitely going to be wrong, but it was something like it was like 8 goals in 12 games or something ridiculous, you know, and it was that hot start. And yeah, he slowed down, but eventually got to a point where he was just consistently chipping away, doing what he's got to do. And I think the big thing for Timo Meier that's been huge for him this year is he's finally doing what he's good at.
Yes.
You know, he's playing the body. He's getting shots on net. Like last year, his shot selection was awful. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast. You know, he gets to the faceoff dot, throws it at the glass, and it's a TV timeout. And now, you know, he's taking a crap load of shots, but they're all hitting the net because he's putting himself into a prime position. He's using his like, he's a big guy and he's a physical guy, but he's not some, you know, he's not like a knuckle dragger out there either. Like, he can move, and he's just making it happen. He's doing what he's good at. And, you know, that's how guys get rewarded on the score sheet. I mean, leads the team in scoring, 11 points in 8 games, as you mentioned. And, you know, obviously his line mates, Couture and Dahlin, both in Dahlin in COVID protocol. Couture, yeah, I don't know. But, you know, that whole line is clicking. And I think as much as Timo is making things happen on his own, I think the fact that everybody on his line is buzzing, I think it's just you start to develop that belief where it's like, yeah, every time the puck's on my stick, it's going in.
But is it a point of concern, though, that the Couture line with Dahlin and Meier is, I mean, responsible for the vast majority of points right now?
I would say no. And I think you can go back to what I said about outliers, right? You know, there's going to be outliers, and they're all at the beginning of the season. And you look, like, we know Tomas Hertl is a good player. Like, he doesn't need to prove anything. He's a good player, and he's got 4 points in eight games. I stand to believe that that's going to correct eventually, just based on the fact that he is a good player. You know, I think William Eklund, he's obviously had no points in his last 4 games, but I still think he fits in on
what
that
a
line.
Loser.
I know, but I still think he fits in on that line. I think he fits in the NHL, and you know, I've really liked what I've seen from him as well, just the creativity standpoint. And then obviously, you know, Rudy Balcers, everybody seems to love to bully Rudy Balcers, but like the last couple games, I think he's had the most chances out of everybody. And, you know, it's like Ian Reed said on After Dark last night, like, Balcers just needs to get one, and then they're all going to start going in for him.
Well,
and
I remember you saying, yeah, there will be no disparagement of Rudolph Balcers when you are involved.
No, we do not slander Rudy Balcers' name in this house. The haunted one behind me, you will have to live in there if you talk bad about Rudolph Balcers. Because I think, and I see these, scratch Balcers. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, yeah, he's not scoring, but he's making things happen. He can hang with Hertl, and as we'll get into it a little bit later, Hertl's the best player on the team. If you can hang with the best player on the team, chances are you should be playing.
Yeah. So let's get into some fun for a second here, which we'll call, wait, what? If players were Halloween candy.
Oh, we're doing this now?
For the Sharks. What would they be? I'll give you mine. I'll give you mine first.
Okay.
Timo Meier.
Yep.
He would be, this season, my payday. Because when he's out there, we're getting paid with goals.
Yeah, I dig it.
So you give me somebody who, if they're a candy, what Halloween candy are they? And I also throw this to the chat. I want to know what the chat thinks.
So I've got a couple. So comes to mind, and I kind of mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. But I think of Tomas Hertl, best player on the team. More often than not, is making things happen. He's factoring into the game in a positive way.
Sure.
That's your Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Or dare I say your Hershey's Kiss?
Yeah, sure. But you think about a peanut butter cup, right? It could be, that lunchtime snack. Maybe you got the munchies and it's 2 a.m. or, whatever's going on. You dig into that pillowcase and that's the first thing you grab. The peanut butter cup, it's always good. It always delivers, no matter what. Tomas Hertl is your peanut butter cup. I think if we want to get into it a little bit more, Kevin LeBanc. And again, I should say as well, these are all based on how I feel about candy. Feel free to disagree. Same with the chat. Feel free to agree or disagree. Kevin LeBanc, he's a good player. But you sometimes forget how good he is. And I feel the same way about Kit Kat bars. Because Kit Kat is a good candy, but I always forget it's a good candy until I bite into it.
It's not your go-to.
It's not the go-to, but you know what? You pick it up and you take a bite, and you know what? You remind yourself how good it is.
There you go.
I think if you want to turn it the other way a little bit, I got a couple other ones here. I would say Alexander Barabanov, kind of a lesser talked about guy in the beginning, and then just showed up and bam, right there, impact. To me, that's Pop Rocks. Because Pop Rocks, you're kind of like, Pop Rocks? Like, all right, whatever. You throw them in your mouth, and then boom, 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 it's popping in your mouth. And that's Alexander Barabanov. It's just, you didn't think much of it, but then you get it in there, and it's like, whoa, hey, Radim Šimik, everybody loved him when they were a kid. Now they're really not that much into him. I think Radim Šimik is Laffy Taffy, personally.
Oh, I thought you were going Jawbreaker on that one. Okay.
And Evander Kane, I think Evander Kane is candy corn. You get it, and you're polite about it, but then as soon as you round the corner, you dump that shit out of your bag and you move on.
In the chat, Evander Kane is an apple with a razor blade inside.
But there you go. There you go. See, those are if we're talking players as Halloween candies, those are kind of my 5 that I sort of came up with.
I like it. It. It's just you know what? For me, like Mario Ferraro is the Snickers. It's just
okay.
Like it's just it always reliable, always tastes good. Might not be the first thing you grab out of the bag, but when you see it, you're like, yeah, we like it.
I dig it.
Right?
I dig that. I think you could say, I think, and again, this is there's obviously some recency bias here. I look at Lane Peterson, and I think Milky Way. I think Milky Way. Because you look at it, and you're like, why do people like this?
Dude, I'm so there with you. Oh, Taco Cruiser, thank you so much for the super chat. Taco saying, should Kane be allowed back on the team?
No.
Yeah, no. I am in agreement with the jerk man. I would say no.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
So we're talking about Halloween really quick.
Hold on. Sharks last, just like I said with Ferraro. Snickers satisfies, as does Ferraro.
There you go.
You were saying.
Yeah, you know what? It's only been 30 minutes, and I think we're a little over halfway through the show, so I feel I can ask you an off-topic question.
Sure.
So, we're talking Halloween here. So, obviously when you're a kid, you go trick-or-treating, you do the whole thing. What was your receptacle of choice? Were you a jack-o'-lantern bucket guy? Were you a pillowcase guy?
Pillowcase, absolutely. Because, dude, I mean, jack-o'-lantern, what, it's
right.
Let me query you this: were you ever one of those people? And I'll be the first to admit I've done it. Were you ever one of those ones that did got your costume on, did your rounds, if you will, and then went home and grabbed a different pillowcase, put on a different costume, and went again?
No, I have
I
not.
see. I did.
I've not done that, but when I was a kid, the neighborhood that a couple of things. Number one, the neighborhood that we hit was a pretty big neighborhood. So like you do one tour and you're set, you're dialed
gotcha.
in. But also, and even now this is the case, but especially when I was a kid, I wasn't the biggest candy guy. Like we'd get home, dump the pillowcase out, and your parents, at least parents, the smart thing to do is you check the candy, make sure there's nothing's open, nothing's open, nothing's tampered with, right? You got to make sure all that stuff's dialed in. And I would get through my candy, I'd look and okay, so Reese's peanut butter cups, Kit Kats, Jolly Ranchers, maybe if somebody threw in some sour Skittles in there, I'd be all about that as well. But honestly, most of the candy I gave to my brother. So I would take my 38 peanut butter cups and I'd be on my way, know.
So we all saw what happened yesterday. If you're watching us live, like we said earlier, the Sharks weren't even sure if they were going to play yesterday, and all of this obviously did have an impact because the Barracuda should be playing the Stockton Heat right now, but that game was in fact postponed. How is this COVID protocol going to affect the team? I mean, don't the infected need to stay away from the team for like 10 days? Like, we're talking about those 3 games that are supposed to be played this week for San Jose. Who's in? Like, are we going to see more of what we saw against Winnipeg? So where it's like, if you're healthy, you're like clean test, you're in.
So it's the if you're asymptomatic, you can get back in once you present a negative COVID test because, and it seems like most of the asymptomatic positive cases have been false positives. Not to say all of them, but a good chunk of them are. I believe Mark Scheifele was a false positive. And there was at least one other big name that was a false positive as well. But those who are symptomatic, they do have to be held out for 10 days, and they require doctor's approval to come back as well. And nothing is confirmed, obviously, but I believe I want to say it was Shang who put it out there that it's at least 2 of the 7 players are symptomatic. So,
well, and I'm interested to see if Couture bounces back because Couture was quote unquote under the weather, not actually, impacted by COVID. So remains to be seen. We'll see how that plays out. Today was an off day for the team, so I'm assuming we're going to get a lot more information tomorrow morning. So it is what it is after practice in the morning. Follow the boys, if you will, Kurz, Pichelka, Shank. They're going to be there. They're going to tell us what's going on, and they're going to give us the dirt, if you will. If we're lucky, they will do some Zoom availability. But yeah, follow the boys. They'll let you know if you're interested. Let's move on to what I was talking about earlier when it comes to attendance. The home opener drew just over 16,000. Sharks played 2 home games this week. Neither reached 12,000. Is this expectations of a bad team? Is this reaction to COVID? Is this reaction to being priced out? Can 3 things be true?
Yeah, absolutely they can. I think, like we kind of talked about earlier, if Jonathan Becker, in the interview you did with him, he's of the belief that there's still a little bit of nervousness that comes with going out with during the pandemic, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. For the record, I've got both of my Pfizer shots, and I'm actually getting ready to get a booster shot as well here pretty soon. So in terms of taking the proper precautions, I'm where I need to be for my own personal self, but there is still that little bit of hesitancy, especially if you're somebody like me, you work in a high risk area. I mean, it's always going to be in the back of your mind. So I think there is some credence to that. There's definitely a lot of credence to that, but I think as well, the way the Sharks have played to start the season, I'm happy about it. I think you're happy about it.
Okay.
But
definitely unexpected.
Sure. And people were expecting another slow start, another bad season. And so maybe, you're going to get people who say, well, this hot start is nice, but, ask me where they're at on December 1. And I think that's totally fair as well. If at the end of the day, it's your money, and if you choose not to spend it on a hockey ticket, hey, more power to you. I think as well, something that's really not considered all that much, but the last 2 years, no fans, limited fans, mask, no mask, vaccine, all this stuff. From what I've read, it seems like a lot of people have, I guess, fallen in love with the idea of watching the game at home.
I don't know if I'd say fallen in love with it, but maybe like a little bit of condition to it. Like maybe, hey, rather than spending these thousands of dollars on season tickets, I'll spend a couple grand on a really nice, like 85-inch OLED TV that looks spectacular.
Yeah.
And hey, this looks pretty comfortable, and it's nice that I don't have to pay $16 a beer in my house.
Well, exactly. You'll get, you don't have to pay that much for beer. You can get whatever snacks you want. I personally think, and this is totally my unbiased opinion, but I've been to, if you include San Jose, I've been to 5 NHL arenas. The Sharks have the most comfortable seats of the 5 I've been to. So obviously they have good seats, but if I had to choose between seats at an arena or my couch, I think I would choose my couch. But also, and I think this may tie into it more than we realize, you know what you don't have to do when you watch the Sharks game at home?
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. I'm all for wearing. Don't get me wrong. Personally, I believe you should wear a mask if you go out. I believe it's the right thing to do. That said, I totally understand if people are tired of doing it. I'm one of those people. I'm really tired of doing it, but I do it because it's what's asked of me. But at the same time, I totally understand if you want to be somewhere where you don't have to.
Yeah. Puck Guy also noting attendance is low everywhere, which was noted by Sean Shapiro in The Athletic last week.
Right.
So it's like it's down across the board. But I've been watching different games. You see banks of seats that are close to the glass that are empty. And so, yeah, I do kind of think it leans a little bit more towards just people not being comfortable being in an enclosed area with thousands of other people. So it is what it is. Let's move on here. Players were yet again asked about Evander Kane, this time being asked, have they spoken to him? Do they know where he is? And the thing is, no one has spoken to him, and no one knows where he is. More people know where Carmen Sandiego is. More people know where Jimmy Hoffa is than who knows where Evander Kane is at this point. Do you even think he's in the U.S. at this point?
I mean, probably. There are some sleuths on the internet who've been able to surmise where he is. But, I mean, you can only trust that so much, right? I think it's pretty telling because set aside everything that's been said and, everything that Evander Kane's done, if this was a guy that the Sharks were behind and they wanted him to get back, they would be saying like, we hope he's doing all right. We can't wait to get him back in here. But,
none of that.
The coach doesn't know where you are. The captain hasn't spoken to you in months.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry to say, you're not on the team anymore.
No.
Like, if you were coming back, the coach would know where you were or have at least spoken to you on the phone. And the same thing. And Couture even said, I don't know if anybody's talked to him.
Yeah.
And I think that tells you everything you need to know.
You're exactly right. To the chat real quick here. Bozosaurus saying, Panthers games look crazy full. I mean, yeah, if you open up undefeated. I mean, and that's not to disparage what they've got going on, because getting to a Panthers game is no easy feat, my friend. The building is out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I was gonna say, you would have to, you make sure you bring your machete with you because there's a pretty thick marsh out there.
Yeah. So good on them. I'm blown away by their start.
And like you said, it helps when the team is undefeated to start the year. I mean, they've started this season 8-0-1, and everybody expected them to be a good team in the Atlantic Division this year, but
they didn't expect this.
Yeah, but to lead the Atlantic Division and lead it comfortably, they've won 8 wins, 6 of them are in regulation, so they get the job done when they need to.
And we'll get to that in a minute. The big thing that I want to talk about, though, is, and this has been the debate that's been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. We will receive an answer this week. Do the Sharks burn a year of William Eklund's entry-level contract? And for those who are not aware, Jerk, please explain to the people what that all means.
So basically, because William Eklund he was a player, he's on his entry-level contract. He was just drafted 4 months ago. So he is in that situation where he can play 9 NHL games, do his thing, do whatever he wants. If he plays that 10th game, his contract will essentially kick in.
Now let me clarify this. He actually has to play, right? Because he was scratched in the Boston game.
Correct. He has to step on the ice in 10 games.
Okay.
If he, say, after that 9th game, he gets sent to the Barracuda or he gets sent back to his Swedish Hockey League team, Djurgården, his entry-level contract will not kick in. And what will happen it'll essentially slide where, the first year of the contract would essentially be next year. The contract will slide.
Mm-hmm.
And, to kind of answer the question you posed a few seconds ago, is he going to stay past 9 games? Absolutely. I mean, he's got 3 assists.
How could you not?
How could you not? Because here's the thing. He's got 3 assists in 7 games. So he's getting in on the offense. But even and as we talked about before, him, Hurdle, Balsers, that line, they've had tough sledding so far. They're still, as a unit, playing very well together. They're making things happen. They're getting grade A scoring chances. It just so happens that those chances are not going in. And I'm going to say it again. We talk about outliers. Eventually, outliers become outliers. Right now it looks like that's the status quo. Eventually, this will be an outlier, and that line will be clicking and buzzing, and I think Eklund will be a part of it. And here's the thing. Even if that first year of that contract does kick in, after, it could be game 32, and the Sharks can still send him to the Barracuda. They can still send him to Djurgården. I don't think at this point, especially because even though he hasn't been on the score sheet, the fact that he's made as big of an impact as he has, I think the Sharks don't really care how many games he plays. Well, they're more like, I imagine that if it gets to the middle of the season and they have to send him down, I don't think they'll be too upset about kicking in that first year.
Well, and here's the funny thing, and I don't know if this is just like fans becoming more educated about entry-level contracts and all that, but there was so much about, oh my God, do we burn his first year and blah, blah, blah. I don't remember hearing fuck all about Tomas Hurdle his first year. You know what I mean? When he hit that 9-game plateau, what? It was like he'd already had a 2-goal game versus the Coyotes. He had the 4 goals against the Rangers. Right. Like, I'm sure if Eklund at this point already had like 8 goals, it would be like, yeah, why are we even talking about this? Now, kid has not scored a goal yet, but he's definitely shown, the what you need to stick.
Absolutely. And it's now obviously goals win games. I think Puck Guy will tell you that. But you don't need to score all the time to make an impact. And like I said, that line, they've not scored, but they're getting grade A scoring chances. They're not getting killed out there. I think he's played at an NHL level, even though he's only got 3 assists in 7 games. I say you keep him up. And even if you have to send him down after the 9 games, who cares? Because, like, the type of player that William Eklund is, and he's a skilled player, right. It's not a situation like Balsers or like LeBanc or even Couture and Pavelski in the past, where it's like, yeah, you've done good, but we still kind of want to see, so we're going to do short term and we'll see where it goes. No. After this entry-level contract, which, by the way, if it does not slide, if he stays past the 9-game threshold, his entry-level contract will expire at the end of the 2023-24 season. I'm of the belief that in these 3 years, Eklund will play so well, the Sharks are going to have to pay him, even if they do let this, don't let the contract kick in. There's no, maybe we can manipulate the system so we don't have to pay him as much. No, you're going to have to pay him regardless because he's an elite level player.
And Ian jumping in saying Eklund isn't going to benefit from playing lesser competition, and you can always pull the ripcord if things get ugly down the road.
Exactly. I think the idea of burning that first level contract, I think it's a bit overblown. Here's the thing, and it's kind of like what we said, people said, oh, well, I don't want to rush his development. And you and I both said, well, if he's already developed, what's there to rush, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. If you burn the first year of that contract, it means you have a good player on your hockey team.
Right. And Ian saying the Oilers pulled the ripcord on Draisaitl after burning his first year. Turned out fine.
Yeah, I heard that guy's good.
Yeah, might be. So, yeah, we're both of the mindset that, Eklund sticks. He's not going anywhere. So,
and I'm fine with that. 100%.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier. I don't want to go too deep, but are we both of the accord of just that, you go with the hot hand in goal, Reimer needs to start minimum 2 of the next 3?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think you just play with who's playing well.
There you go. And then for those who give a shit, Logan Couture got engaged. So there you go.
Good for him.
Yeah,
happy
and that's the whole, happy for him, absolutely. But odd that he gets engaged. It's announced on Instagram, and then the very next game he's under the weather.
We don't want to speculate, but what are the chances he was hungover?
Yeah, hungover. Maybe it fell off. I mean,
yeah.
Oh man, you don't know. You don't know because God knows girl has been waiting long enough. I think they've been together for 5 years. But anyway, so there you go. Let's go around the NHL here for a hot second. I don't want to go too into the weeds, but the NHL fined the Blackhawks $2 million for a 2010 incident. Several staff have resigned. Coach Quenneville has resigned as a result because Kyle Beach went public about some nefarious shit that happened back in 2010. Go ahead.
So for I think it's important to say, and for those who haven't, the clip that TSN did with Kyle Beach, it was Rick Westhead, which, by the way, the reporting that Rick Westhead did on this situation.
Oh, if that guy doesn't win a Pulitzer.
It was I believe his reporting, and Kyle Beach said that as well in this TSN hit. Rick's reporting is what made everything happen the way it is. So, I commend Rick for not really caring about burning bridges and more caring about getting the truth out there. I watched that 26-minute video, and I'll tell you what, dude, it was really hard to get through because you can tell that this situation, 11 years later, this situation still weighs heavily on Kyle Beach. But I also think it was important to watch as an educating tool, but also just to see, everything that's going on, right? And I give Kyle full commendation for just coming out with this story. It's, there's just so much to it. You're gonna have certain douchebags on the internet who are gonna say dumb things.
Wait a minute. There are douchebags on the internet? The hell you say?
Yeah. You're gonna have douchebags on the internet who demean what happened to Kyle Beach because he's a 6'4" male. But that kind of stuff, it still takes a toll. And Rick has talked about it a lot. There's a power dynamic that does not discriminate against how big or small somebody is. Mm-hmm. And the employee.
Well, dude, when someone threatens you, it basically says, if you don't do this, I'm going to make sure that your lifelong dream never fucking happens.
Exactly.
That can mess with your head.
And I give Kyle Beach full props because the story that he told, that's such a hard thing to put out there. And he was very brave, and he was very confident that he was doing the right thing, and he was very emotional too. The half of the video he was visibly upset, but he powered through, and he got his story out there, and I think it's very important. If you haven't watched it already, I seriously advise you to do that. And now, I think the NHL deserves some blame because they fined the Blackhawks $2 million, which, if you ask me, is a bullshit penalty, because the New Jersey Devils were fined more money and loss of draft picks for circumventing the salary cap in 2011 or 2012, I believe that was.
Well,
the Arizona,
yeah, I was going to say, what about the Coyotes?
The Arizona Coyotes were dinged for a draft pick penalty because they did illegal combine testing. Now, those things are bad and they should be punished. Nobody is debating that. But this situation is a million times worse than both of those combined. And a $2 million fine, I think, is Bush League, and I think it makes the NHL look stupid. And as Ian has said multiple times on Twitter, YouTube chat, wherever anybody will listen, best sport, worst league. And I agree with that 100%.
Well, the fact that, all this time, first off, the fact that it took this long to come about, and then I don't know if you've read the whole thing, but I'm not going to bullshit. I didn't read the entire thing because it's a lot to get through, but I did probably absorb about 70% of what I read, and just to look at all of that and to see that it took a decade for it to come out. And then you've got guys like Coach Q going, "Oh, I don't really remember that meeting." And then 2 days later, and I'm resigning.
Exactly.
Just,
and the fact that there was this, like you said, there was this meeting to sort of cover it all up, right? And all of the people, 5 of the 6 people who were in that meeting have all resigned.
Yeah.
Coach Q, and here's the thing, with Coach Q and with Stan Bowman and with Mick Isaac, who was with the Blackhawks at the time as well, had they not resigned, they would have been fired. And I think deservedly so, because...
See, I don't even think at this point, not to be a dick about this, but I don't even think you should get the option to resign.
No, I think you should be fired.
Yeah.
I just think all of the people who colluded in that meeting to stash this away, I honestly hope they never get a job again. Because this is just a really
and this is not cancel culture, people.
No, this is being held accountable for your shitty actions.
Yeah, telling a bad joke, at the wrong place, the wrong time, whatever. That, to me, that's not a cancel culture thing. Trying to cover up something like this. No, that deserves, you need to never be involved in the NHL ever again. And your name should be pulled off the cup.
And the thing too, that kind of, it makes me think things, right? So it was, and I'm a little fuzzy on these particular details, but, John McDonough, who was he was the president of the Blackhawks. He had been he was the president since 2007, and he was the CEO since 2011, and he was fired in April of 2020 under mysterious circumstances, because at the time everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, John McDonough, he's part of the group that got the Blackhawks where they are, and awesome, right?" So he was fired under mysterious circumstances, and now this new shit has come to light, and it kind of makes you wonder, okay, maybe he was fired for a completely different reason that never became public. But also, if you read the statement of Joel Quenneville, you read the statement of Stan Bowman, these statements read like guys who want another job in the future, but are also trying to deflect blame to John McDonough. And that's not to say that John McDonough is not worthy of blame. He is, because by all accounts the story got to him and he stashed it away before the owners of the Blackhawks found out about it. And at the same time, though, there were 6 people in that meeting who colluded to stash it away.
Yeah, the whole thing was sketchy as fuck. So yeah, like you said, the stick taps cannot go long enough for Westhead on this.
Yeah.
Again, dude needs to win a Pulitzer for all of this. Just amazing reporting, and just unbelievable that this whole thing transpired. To me, that's like actually the most sickening part of this whole thing. Like that something like this could happen. This is just 10 years ago that this happened. It blows me away.
And here's the thing. I guarantee you and I and all 38 people watching live right now, I guarantee you we all remember what we were doing in 2010.
Yeah.
It's sickening and it's maddening, and like I said, I like watching Kyle Beach's interview with TSN. Like I felt a lot of things because it's you don't want anybody to have to go through that.
No, not at all. To have to succumb to any pressure in order to get ahead in your chosen
to
profession,
fulfill your dream.
Yeah, like, can you imagine? But anyway, we're gonna let that lie there. Let's move on to something a little more fun to talk about. For those of you who don't know, Jerk loves himself some Kyle Connor.
I've picked him up in 4 consecutive fantasy hockey league seasons because everybody continues to sleep on him.
Was just, first star of the week. Scored the lone Jets goal versus the Sharks. I mean, this is your fantasy secret weapon, is it not?
Dude, the guy, go back the last 4 seasons. 31 goals, didn't play a full season. 34 goals, 38 goals, didn't play a full season. 26 last year. Guy, I swear to God, guy puts up 40 in his sleep. Everybody talks about Alexander Ovechkin, as they should. Everybody talks about Patrick Laine, Austin Matthews. They should. These are all good goal scorers.
Kyle McDavid, maybe.
Kyle Connor. Like I said, people regularly sleep on this guy, and I've been able to pick him up in 4 straight fantasy hockey league seasons. And every year, he's been awesome for me.
There you go. So let me ask you this one. Who wins a game first, Chicago or Arizona?
As much as I hate to say it, because I personally think they should go 0-82, but I think Chicago. I mean, they have a better roster than Arizona.
Well, I mean they both play in the same shitty division.
That too, but I think they, I believe Chicago's roster is better than Arizona's, and I think that's why you look and Chicago is 0-7-2, Arizona's 0-8-1. I think that they are less shitty than Arizona.
Are we just going to wait until they both play each other and then we'll determine what happens?
Honestly, that might be what does it.
All right. So who's the last to lose a game in regulation? Florida, Carolina, or Washington? I'm kind of. I don't ask me why. I'm kind of leaning Carolina for some reason.
I'm thinking Florida, just because.
You're probably right.
Because Florida is stacked top to bottom, and their guys are buzzing, right? Versus Carolina, I mean, they are stacked. Their guys are playing well, but I don't know. I think I just like Florida's talent more. Not by much, but I like it more.
All right. I dig it. I'm surprised that we're, 2 weeks into the season. We've got 2 teams that have yet to win a game, but we have 3 teams that have yet to lose in regulation.
Remember what we were saying about outliers?
Hey, now. Let's dive into some former Sharks for a hot minute. Martin Jones. Oh, Ian, please tell me you're still watching. Now rocking a .941 save percentage, a .201 goals against with 2 wins under his belt. We are 18 starts away from an Ian shaving. We are 18 starts. If he and he's getting better, like his save percentage from that first win was like in the 920s or something. Now he's at .941. Oh, you love to see it. What you don't love to see that much is Josh Norris throwing up 5 goals, 6 points.
I love to see it. I don't know what you're talking about.
5 goals, 6 points in 7 games for Ottawa. This is a guy who was like, penciled in as the 3rd line center. Maybe if if there's an injury, maybe he can, slot into second. Nope. Right now, nope. Number 1.
Yeah. He's their number 1 center. I would say he's their best player.
Right?
he's and clearly not fazed by anything going on. Last year he spent pretty much all of last year with Drake Batherson and Brady Tkachuk, and that line was really good. This year, obviously, Brady Tkachuk goes through the
intense negotiations.
Yeah, the contract negotiation, and so they put Tim Stützle up on that line, but
Stützle.
Hey, no problem for Norris. He's still going to get his points and be on his merry way, and he leads all their forwards in ice time. Both 5-versus-5 and power play. Doesn't kill penalties, but hey,
he's killing it every other way.
You don't need a guy like that to kill penalties.
No. I mean, unbelievable. Ian coming back. What is this? This is still Martin Jones. He has had hot streaks before. I think what Ian's trying to get at is he will go cold before a razor is popped out. Speaking of the Florida Panthers, as we were a hot minute ago, Joe Thornton finally has his first goal as a Panther.
Good for him.
Yeah, exactly. Joe Pavelski is still a little quiet. 2 goals and an assist in 8 games, but is only one of 2 players with a plus for the Stars. So, not that means anything. Speaking of which, how did Erik Karlsson do this week? Does he have a minus in front of his name in those 3 games? I'm sorry, the 2 games that he played? Anyway.
So, let's take a look. He was, let's see.
Nashville?
Even against Nashville and -1 against Montreal.
And then didn't play. Okay, so, for all the carving that there was, didn't show up this past week.
But still +2 on the season. 6 points in 7 games, which is where you said you wanted him to be.
Yeah. If he can whip it out.
He also hasn't played, so, yeah. We'll see.
So let's dive into the young one.
Ooh, Barracuda.
So, as we said earlier, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on here, isn't it? Look at that. Wait, what? What we said earlier about the Barracuda, they should have been playing against the Stockton Heat right now, but of course that game was postponed because everything happening COVID-related to the Sharks. So right now, as it stands, the Barracuda have played 4 games. They are 2-1-1. Last one, 5-4 overtime loss versus the Colorado Eagles, your Avalanche affiliate. Right now, the leaders for the team in goals, we have 5 guys with 2 goals apiece. That's Halbgewachs, Reedy, Leonard, Gregor, and Nick Merkley. Leading in assists is Ryan Merkley with 4, but Nick Merkley has 3. So evidently, Nick Merkley has some things to say about, there can only be one Merkley on this team. But yeah, Nick leading the team with 5 points. In net, though, it's a little bit of a different story. Sawchenko, only 1 start, but a nice .957 save percentage. Melnichuk, on the other hand, 3 starts, but has been lit up and is now at an .882. Yikes!
Yeah, as someone who's a fan of Melnichuk, I'm hoping he turns it around because you don't like to see that. But I would also like to say, just talking about the Barracuda, and with everything obviously kind of difficult given the circumstances that have now shifted to the Barracuda as well with the COVID protocol. But when I heard that there were going to be 5 regulars out of the lineup, I was saying #call up Gregor. And I still stand by that. If he can get healthy, I say call him up.
Well, he's in COVID protocol too, right?
He is.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is if he can get back and they still need a body on the Sharks, call up Noah Gregor. I mean, 4 points in 4 games, obviously playing really well. And I think I'm hoping you agree with me, but a guy I felt should have had a longer look in camp, personally.
I would agree with that. But Weatherby's a motherfucker.
Yeah. Weatherby killing it, and, there's still chances for Yoel to get called up.
Yeah, Puck guy letting us know about the Merkleys. Mark.
Nice.
For the prospects, your top 5 this week are Tristan Robbins, who's just decimating. 19 points in 9 games. Fuck out of here.
You talk
Stop
about
it.
And actually, you know what? This is since updated. 21 points in 10 games.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So you talk about a guy who everything he touches is going in.
Oh. Wait a minute. What? Brandon Coe, 6 goals, 14 points in 9 games with North Bay Battalion. Daniil Gushkin leads the prospect pool in goals with 8, posting 12 points in 8 games.
13 and 9.
Now it's 13 and 9. See? So obviously games have been played in the last 24 hours because I was running stuff. But I appreciate you keeping me honest. Thomas Bordeleau, 2 goals, 10 points in 8 games at the University of Michigan. Is that still the same?
Yes, sir.
All right. And number 5 on my list, I have Ethan Cardwell, point-a-game player, 7 and 7.
8 and 8.
8 and 8. Oh, my God. Talk about keeping it going. Man, that is spectacular. Man, this pipeline. Oh,
and even then,
to see it.
Even then, Alex Young, 8 points in 9 games at Colgate University. We love to see it. Ozzy Weisblatt, 7 and 10. Love it. You know, the Sharks prospects across the board are stepping up.
This is, man, this team could be real fun to watch in 5 years. So I think with that, it's probably a nice time to put a nice tidy bow on it. Give everybody who joined us tonight time to run out with the pillowcase and
At least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, and go get that candy. So you can follow him at hockey_jerk. You can follow me at AJ_strong on that social media. If you ever have any questions or topics you would like us to cover, you can always throw it in the chat when we're live or send them to us at Tealtown USA on the Twitter machine. Don't forget to join us on the Discord channel where the chat never stops. You can find that link somewhere in the show notes, or again, just hit us on Twitter. We're not shy about it. We'll throw it to you. So with that, I guess I will say famous last words for you, Mr. Jerkman.
So it's been 2 weeks, and the Sharks, they kind of stubbed their toe a little bit.
You said 2 weeks, and immediately in my head I just thought, 2?
You know, they stubbed their toe a little bit, but they are still in a playoff spot. And, you know, even in the 3 games that they've lost, and Ian kind of mentioned this on After Dark last night, I don't really think, aside from the first 2 periods against Montreal, there's not really been a F this team moment this year.
Dude, like you see them battling. Like it's like, oh, you know, boy, if that just bounces one way. Like the compete is there. That you don't see the white flag that we saw the last couple seasons.
Exactly, which I think that's huge, and I think that's important in being a good team. It's huge. It's huge. You know, going down 2-0 and not getting rattled, just chipping away, doing your thing, and even if you don't win the game, at least you put up a good fight to try and get back into it.
And you give that team something to think about.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, the module, you know, over 8 games, the module hasn't really shifted all that much.
Shit.
But
I'm such a shitty host. We didn't talk about the module. Where are we at right now? Give me your top 3 in the module right now.
Top 3. So we got Timo Meier with a module score of 11. He's
Shocker.
got 5 goals, 1 low value, 2 mid value, 2 high value. Was number 1 for a long time, has dropped to number 2, but Jonathan Dahlen, module score of 8. He's got 1 mid-value goal, 2 high-value goals. Tomas Hertl in 3rd, same exact thing as Jonathan Dahlen. Logan Couture at number 4, 1 low-value goal, but he's got 2 high values. And Kevin LeBanc, 1 low value, but 1 high value.
Analytics, darling.
There you go. That's your top 5. And, you know, just looking at it, you know, the Sharks, they're 5-3 this year. They haven't had the guys who have scored goals for them have scored a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm wanting to see, you know, especially coming into next week, we got 3 games coming up. I want to see, I'd like to, you know, Balcers is on the board. He's got a goal. I'd like to see a couple more goals from Balcers. I'd love to see Barabanov get a goal. I'd like to see William Eklund get his first. Bonino, Brent Burns, obviously. You know, you want everybody to, obviously, you want your best players to have the most goals, but you also want everybody to get in on the fun.
Yeah, Burns is the one that I'm going, boy, for as much ice time as you're seeing, I'd like to see you on the score sheet a little more.
I agree. But, you know, module's in a good place. Timo Meier, Timo Meier was comfortably in third place. In these last couple games, he's exploded up to first. So we'll see how that goes over the next couple games.
Exciting. Last words for me. Look, I'm not going to hold back. Ruben, you're pissing me off, man.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. I mean, like, grabs the tribal jersey and then gets a signature within 48 hours. I mean, come on, man. Taunting me with a signature and being featured on the pregame. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, hey, you know what, dude? You gotta. Here's what I would say to that. So you know how all the jerseys, they have like the whatever the that logo stitched in on the bottom of the jersey for the recycled thing.
Oh yeah, the prime green. Yeah.
You dude, you got to come up with your own jock tag.
I know, right? Or at the very
Like,
least, somebody
maybe
said I should sign the inside of the fight strap.
Do that, or on the hip, just like stitch, like have AJ stitched into it on the hip.
Yeah. Just I think just signing the like, grab a Sharpie, just sign the inside of the fight strap. I think that'd be fine.
Absolutely.
You know. But yeah, like, I like the idea of the little tag or whatever. But see, the whole thing is like, if I sign it with a Sharpie, that's not something you can sit there with a seam ripper and cut off.
Exactly.
So look, I mean, we say no free ads, but if you're interested in these jerseys that we're talking about, if you want to pick one up, you can find it on Instagram, SJ Sharks Jerseys. So
there you go.
That's my new Insta for all my, as you can see over my shoulder, there's one that is available to purchase right now, the Stealthen version. So, hey, remember, you can find everything on tealtownusa.com, all the stuff that we're doing. We thank you so much for following along when you join us on the podcast. Again, if you're listening to us on some sort of podcast platform that is audio only, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, whatever, help us out. Do us a favor. Subscribe to our content. Leave a review if you can. We prefer 5 stars. You can find links to our social media, the podcast apps, and more in the YouTube description below, or the description on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Yay, yay, yay. As always, hit the subscribe button if you're watching us on UBTubi. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. We're on all of them. Again, if you ever want to support the show with a little tip, we love it. We appreciate it. You can use the Super Chat option during the live shows. Hit us up on Venmo anytime at Tealtown USA. So with that, look, happy Halloween, everybody. I think we'll all be happier if we're talking about William Eklund playing his 11th game next week. I think we'd all be a little happier for that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Find everything on tealtownusa.com. Remember to check us out after every single Sharks game for After Dark. And that's our show, guys. Thanks for watching and listening. We will see you next week for episode 139. What are we looking for? Nobody's, you know what? Maybe next week, somebody, whether it's myself or Jerk, we will bring in for show and tell the milk carton that features Evander Kane's photo on the side. Good night, everybody. See you in the Discord.